You and I are both fascinated with Stan Laurel, and I think also with dialects, and we both, people don't know this, maybe about me anyway, but we both knew Stan Laurel.
Yes.
I think, is that called a bilateral sibilance that he had? It was some
That's
speech.
exactly what it is. I didn't realize what it was.
It's a speech defect that I know, as you know, his relatives told him he could never go on the stage because he'd never be a success in show business because he had that bilateral sibilance, which sort of sounds like that.
Yes, very good.
I can't imagine, both of us doing him might be a bit hard to take here.
Yes.
But it was a shock, wasn't it, when you first met Laurel, that he didn't sound like the Laurel of the screen exactly, but he'd say, very nice to see you, lad. It certainly was nice, and he had that sort of S sound. And he was...
That bilateral sibilance.
Bilateral
what
sibilance,
that was.
I guess that's what it... Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but he lived out in that little part. You went to see him, didn't you, in
Yeah.
Santa Monica?
I've seen you do him a couple of times, and it's just startling.
Oh, God, the first time I ever did him was after I had met him, and I did it with Henry Calvin. He used to be Captain Garcia on Zorro, the big fat guy. He did Ollie, and I did Stan. But Stan knew I was going to do it, and I begged him to come down to the studio and give me a little help.
Mm-hmm.
No, he wouldn't go out in public, at all.
Yeah.
He wanted people to remember him as he was. But I called him after the show was on the air and said, how did I do? And he said, well, Dickie. He called me Dickie.
Yeah.
He gave me 20 minutes of notes of things I had done wrong.
But you were directed by Stan Laurel.
After the fact,
Yeah.
which was a big help. He didn't like that derby at all. Incidentally, he promised me his derby, and nobody's been able to find it to this
really?
day. I never got it. But,
I bet somebody snatched it.
and he
Do you
didn't
know-
wear heels. He took the heels off his shoes to give him that kind of funny stance that he had, and I hadn't done that. He used paper clips as cufflinks, and I hadn't done that.
Yeah.
I forget all the things, but 20 minutes of notes, but he ended up by saying, you were good. He was marvelous.
I know he liked you very much. He used to talk. He talked to me about you.
I used to bug him enough.
Yeah. People had the bad taste to come over and sometimes then talk as him the whole time they were there. I mean, just. He said one time he almost never swore, but he did at this point. He wouldn't. I don't think his wife would mind my telling this. I said, "Do you like people imitating you?" And he said, "Well, it's all right sometimes, but." The other day, this fella came in and he talked like me the entire time, and it was so damn embarrassing. I was bastard. I didn't know where to look. And his voice went up like it did in the movie, and I got goose pimples all over.
Do you know he hated that cry? He didn't like to do the cry.
Where'd it come from?
He did it just in a rehearsal or on a stage one time, and the director liked it and made him do it. And he absolutely hated it. He didn't think the cry was funny. But he did it because it made a hit with the public, of course, and he always did it after that. But he said, I never could understand why that was funny.
I exaggerated just then a little bit, the squeakiness of it, but on the screen, he really went way up. Can you
No,
get
I couldn't
level
get it.
of
No,
it went way?
He did. Never did. That's perfect. I can't get up.
I asked him if he ever got hurt in any of those films that they did, because they did all that stuff that looked falling out of chimneys and down roller coasters and things like that. And he said the only time he ever got hurt was once he stepped off the curb between takes on a street set while talking to somebody.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I don't know what.
And what, put his back out or something?
Yeah, just wrenched his back. Like an athlete will get hurt in the lawn playing with his dog or something.
I used to go out also and visit Buster Keaton, who lived fairly near. I wangled an introduction to him.
Gosh.
He was 68 at the time and still could do everything he did when he was a young man. I'd always been fascinated with the trick he used to do, putting one foot up on the table and then the other foot, and then he would just stay poised in the air, and then he'd drop.
It looked like a cartoon. You would think it couldn't happen in real life. I saw him do that on the Gary Moore show once live. And I don't know if people realize what you just described, but he literally put one leg up on something about as high as a card table.
Yeah.
Now one leg's down, and he lifted the other leg up, and there was an instant, and then onto his back,
Just
onto the
float.
floor.
Well, he did it in his kitchen on the counter for me, and you know how high they are.
Yeah.
At 68 years old, I would have killed myself.
He and your grandmother would have flipped over each other.
What a pair.